And good evening, good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are watching or listening to my podcast here in the Philippines or from whatever part of the world you are from. And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, I like to interview the country's pioneering business personalities and up-and-coming and big-time entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, can we replicate them in our own businesses? How have they innovated their businesses during the pandemic and post-pandemic scenario? And more importantly, what opportunities do they see emerging in our new normal? Is there a business personality or an entrepreneur that you would like me to interview here on the podcast? Please let me know. I would love to learn from them. Just drop me a message. We are also live right now on Kumu and on YouTube. Now, before we begin, are you tired of bank transfer fees and no interest rates? Then if you are, say hello to GoTime Bank. GoTime Bank offers interest rates 50 times higher than traditional banks and offers three free bank transfers to other banks per week. With GoTime Bank, you can make quick and easy transfers to other banks, plus enjoy higher interest rates of 3% per year on your savings. No minimum amount, no deposit caps, and no need to complete tasks or missions. Plus, as a Gokongwei Group Bank, you can trust GoTime Bank to keep your money safe and secure. Download the GoTime Bank app right now and experience the next level of banking. Or you can also visit www.gotime.com.ph. That's GOTYME.com.ph. Talking about banking and finance tonight, we've got a really interesting guest. We have tonight Mickael Cordoso Das Neves, who is the founder and CEO of CloudCfo. It was established in the early 2016. CloudCfo offers end-to-end cloud accounting and finance services for startups and SMEs in the Philippines. By leveraging cloud technology and online solutions together with a real focus on process and output, CloudCfo has brought Accounting 2.0 to the Philippines market. So please welcome my guest here for tonight, Mickael Cordoso. Mike, welcome to the RJ Ledesma Podcast.
Hi, RJ. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure.
Mabuhay. Thanks so much for joining us over here. And this is what I found very interesting about Mike right before we began our conversation. When we were doing technical briefing, I was trying to figure out where he was from. I checked his LinkedIn background. I thought he was from Australia, but apparently you've got a very interesting background. You are French-Portuguese, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Portuguese family born in France.
Interesting. Portuguese family, born. You're like an immigrant family in France. Is that right? So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes.
and then you did your university in France. Is that right? And then
No, I did my undergrad in France, and then I did my master's in Australia. So that's maybe where you got the Australian part.
okay. So I'm trying to figure out where the accent is here right now. Sort of like with a hint of French and a hint of Australian English over there. So it's going to be very interesting discussion here tonight. So
Okay.
Michael, before we begin here tonight, for the people joining us here right now, they're going, the concept of cloud CFO just might fly over their heads. If you were
Yeah.
giving an elevator pitch for what cloud CFO was, take us back to the time when you made your first pitch. What is cloud CFO all about?
I mean, in a nutshell, we're cloud accountants. So we run bookkeeping, accounting, financial reporting, taxes, payroll, kind of end-to-end services for SMEs and startups here. Some large companies as well. So every business needs to do bookkeeping. They need to file their accounts. They need to file their taxes. So you have options. You can either hire a team in-house, or you now have the options to outsource it. Traditionally, it's a very fragmented industry, kind of mom and pop accounting practitioners, aside from the large firms. And we come in kind of as the concept of accountant 2.0 is we leverage technology and primarily cloud-based technology through tools that are available out there, and through our own set of applications that we develop where we see there's a need or an opportunity to provide a better experience interfacing with your accountant online. So we use existing tools and we build our own, and we have our own.
Okay, very interesting. And I know we're going to get into it a bit more later on, but for
Mhm.
the people who can't wait, what exactly, I'm guessing here right now, what exactly is the secret sauce that gives you that sort of competitive advantage versus, let's say, me continuing to keep my accountant in-house or hiring, an external accountant for the company? Why go to Cloud CFO?
I think what makes us unique, aside from the real focus on technology, which I talked about, is process oriented. I did several years under big corp, and when you implement a large ERP like SAP or like the big systems that the big corps work with, the system just does what the system does. The key is the process orientation, and at Cloud CFO we combine those three aspects: the expertise, or our accountants, our teams, our leaders, the processization of every business that we onboard. Like, we do try to understand, or we have the goal to understand your business model and how it works, and how does this translate into added value financial statements and information for you as the business leader. And then we plug in technology aspect to deliver this. So it's the three elements. It's not just the typical traditional accounting. And one key aspect of this, I'm not an accountant. I'm a finance person. I'm an entrepreneur, and this is something that always excited me. Like, accountants shouldn't be the awkward people at the back of the room that handle the paperwork. They should drive business. They should drive value into the business, and for business owners to make decisions that are value driven, especially in a time, times like the pandemic and things like this, where things get tight, and you need to make sure you control your cash flow and understand it. Like, finance and accounting is a strategic asset, not just an admin work.
It's really it's finance and accounting becomes sort of like the strategy work, especially during the pandemic. I mean,
Absolutely.
my wife's listening to the conversation right now. Everything pivoted around finance and accounting, and how to think of it more as a strategy than just a part
Yeah.
of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our purpose, is to help our customers primarily.
I see. So it's more than just providing, I guess, the accounting and finance services, but it's the value added, sort of like their interpretation of how finance and accounting can work,
Yeah.
strategize, and scale your business. Is that sort of like a correct understanding for me? That's the
Yeah,
value added.
absolutely. Absolutely. It starts with process expertise, and then it goes with having value-oriented analysis and output. But one goes with the other. Without clear processes, clear understanding of how businesses, operations, commercial aspects of business link to the accounting and finance, and how to make it scalable. Especially, we work a lot with tech and e-commerce and things like this. So high volume, small value of transaction, you can't just take it the traditional way, where you take every receipt and figure out how you book it. You got to interface with technology. You got to understand the processes, how the controls can work with a high volume of transactions. So yeah, it's again, it's the right people working on the right processes, the right tools. That's what we are about.
Okay, and we're gonna get into that a bit more later on as
Yeah.
we discuss your entrepreneurial journey to find out why you got the Cloud CFO in the first place. But for those who are
Yeah.
interested to learn more about Cloud CFO services, let's flash their link here online. It's cloud for those listening to us. It's cloudcfo.ph. Again, that's cloudcfo.ph if you want to check out more about what Cloud CFO does and their services. But before we get into that one, this is what I find also very interesting, Michael. You used to work for a big multinational corporation here in the Philippines, and you
Yep.
actually left to put up your own business here in the Philippines, which I find very, very interesting because the perspective of other Filipinos can be, I will find sometimes greener pastures abroad, and that's where they look. But then when people put on what I call their entrepreneurial lens, sometimes they look at the Philippines and say, there's so much opportunity over here that you can't ignore. So help me better, so for a better appreciation of the Filipinos and, maybe even Filipinos living abroad who are
Yeah.
thinking of doing business here in the Philippines. What are you seeing that you want other people to see about, what exactly is the great economic and business opportunity that you are seeing in the Philippines?
Actually, I can tell you very quickly about my journey. I mean, I graduated from Australia, and when I graduated, I wanted to stay in Australia, but it was post GFC. It was hard to get like a local job, get a visa, and everything. So opportunities arose in the Philippines. But at the time, I wanted to stay in Australia, and I got a great offer for a great company here, and moved here and started with a company called ICTSI, which is a known group here. And then 6 years later, I was back in Australia, being their CFO for Australian market. So, and that's when I quit. And I quit that job, which I would have killed for 6 years ago, to come back to Manila and start literally from scratch. And what I saw in it is, I mean, there's so many opportunities. There's so many things to be done. There is, if you have the entrepreneurial mindset, you don't see the challenges of the Philippines as a challenge. You see it as an opportunity. It's a young population. It's very positive people, motivated. Yeah, it's dynamic. It moves a lot. I mean, you can see it. Everything is constantly moving, constantly evolving. I moved to the Philippines 10 years ago. There are fields in BGC, right? There, you could cross like patches of grass for like hundreds of meters, and now it's a big city. So that's what I see. That's personally what I see. It's the growth, it's the dynamic workforce, dynamic environment, and a lot of changes happening. And I do see that as an opportunity.
Fantastic. So, Michael, let's talk about now about that entrepreneurial journey of yours. So,
Yeah.
you were saying that you did work for ITCSI, which is
Yeah.
a big Filipino company with it's a logistics it's a shipping company with branches all over the world, and may I say most of the developed world actually is where you find
Yeah.
most of the ITCSI companies. Tell me, when you began that entrepreneurial journey, what were you seeing from there that planted sort of like the initial seeds to become an entrepreneur? I'm sure when you were working there, so you saw everything that was happening. And what did you start realizing as you were working?
um, Actually, this might sound kind of anti entrepreneur, but I didn't really know when I left my role. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to start my own business,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple of leads. I could expand my family business from back home abroad and kind of bring internationally. And I did, because I did work in the finance field. I did see the opportunity to bring added value financial services to SMEs and not just global corps, and like not only the big guys need good financial advice and good financial reports. But I can't say I had a aha moment that is like, okay, this is it. I'm rendering my resignation because I've got the perfect plan. It was a journey. It took me a few months to really narrow down uh, the the business plan. Like I had a few leads. I just wanted to start my own thing. That's really what drove me. I knew I had a great job, a great career with them. I'm very grateful for the opportunities they gave me. But I just thought, if I stay here too long, I'm never going to start my own thing. I mean, I'm just going to go the corporate way. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I always had the entrepreneurial hitch. So I think the hitch got too hitchy. And I just decided I'm going to go for it. And then I'll figure out how to build a sustainable business from there. And that's how it started. And I moved back to Manila. And it's like randomly, some people start asking me like, "Oh, you've got experience. Can you help me out? Like, I have a startup, but I can't get my financials to make any sense. Can you just consult for me?" And that's kind of how it started. And then we like, yeah, there's something there. So that's when the moment came, but it was later on.
Okay, I mean, what I find very amazing for you is that you didn't have a parachute. I mean, you kind of left the job. I mean, if I
Yeah,
think about it, and coming from your experience, as you were saying it, you would have killed to work in Australia
yeah,
6 years ago, but you actually got the job and you
yeah.
opted to come back to Manila. I know that I don't know if it's retreading what you talked about earlier on, but why choose Manila versus working in Australia or even going back to France? I guess.
That's for what I mentioned. I mean, Melbourne is a fantastic place where I lived. Everything worked. Everything was there. Like, every, and back home is the same. Back in France, and I thought Manila had so much to offer in terms of like building fame from scratch, and being part of a journey, part of a change, and the entire environment. It's yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, the temptation to go back to common ground was there. But I actually thought, you know what, if I have to, if I have to go back to step one, let's do it the raw approach, like let's go back to fundamentals, a place that is raw in a certain to a certain extent. And I don't mean that in a bad way, in a good way. Like there's many things to be built, and that's what excited me. Um, yeah, more than kind of doing something in a more mature environment or more mature market.
I get you, and I appreciate the sort of work that you're doing over here. Now let's
Mm,
go. Now that things get interesting for me. You came back here, a couple of opportunities opened up, and you sort of said, okay, you stumbled upon the pain point of SMEs. So
yeah.
when that germ of the idea happened, what was the next step? Because like you said, no, entrepreneurial mindset is basically turning challenges into opportunities. What
Right.
so bring us through the journey when you turned that this sort of challenge that you saw into
Yeah.
a business opportunity that was workable.
Yeah. I mean, outsourcing is something I thought was very interested. I mean, the world was kind of like, outsource specialization where like everything collaborates on different things to build businesses. So I was always excited by that. Initially, I thought, let's do I mean, this is one of the capitals of the world for BPOs. So I thought, why not go back to Australia, sell the services, build the team from here, rely on technology to do remote. But then I realized everyone's doing that. I mean, not everyone's doing that, but a lot of people are doing that. And there's no one trying to do it for the Philippines, or they're not doing it in a way that I thought was added value. Oh, sorry, can you still hear me? I don't know if I'm the one who froze. Hello? Yeah. Um, sorry, am I still there?
Going.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'll continue.
Keep
Um,
going, keep
yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, I think I got choppy for a minute. So yeah, initially the idea was to go back to like a BPO, and then I realized that there is no cloud accountants in the local market, and there's a growing ecosystem of startups, tech companies, SMEs, businesses, restaurants, service companies, BPOs that wanted the services we're offering. So our first challenge and our first objective was to see if we could do this for the local market. That was really the first kind of milestone we wanted to figure out. Can we do it? Can we build the process? Can we build systems that work for the Philippines market at a price that's competitive? And that's our first assumption. That's how we started this journey. Um,
Hold on, I'm trying to get audio here. Hold on.
yeah.
It just hung right on. I'm back. I apologize that Michael. I'm so sorry. The signal disappeared. One of the
No
one of
problem.
one of the problems. Now I picked up the last part actually about you saying that clouds that are actually abroad. What happens there is that, and I'm actually into outsourcing as well. I have a company called Enter
Yeah.
PH, and we help foreign businesses offshore outsource to the Philippines because the opportunity which we saw was that smaller companies abroad want to put up over here, but they
Yeah.
couldn't afford the larger companies to work with to set up.
Yeah.
So we were thinking we would work for MSMEs or SMEs there. So after you looked at outsourcing, what was the other opportunity you were also looking at? Because I mean, you were exploring different opportunities, and how do you
Yeah.
how do you know which ones to choose? You know, because there's so many competing opportunities out there.
And I think that was a little when the idea already matured at that point. I think it's my first few months after leaving the corporate job that I had a few consultancy projects, but those were not long term. So I had an opportunity to bring family business to Asia and Middle East. My family is in construction in a specific area of construction, but it just didn't feel right. I think I go a lot by gut feel, and I just didn't have the same aspiration as this one. So there are a few others, but this just felt right, and so it didn't click right away. And I was exploring a few things. So bring construction business here or to the Middle East, and outsourcing either globally or Philippines, and that's the one that's really struck me as something interesting. We probably would have grown faster if we had gone a like BPO way, because learning to do what we were doing or what we were doing in the Philippines is difficult. It's a regulatory environment that's much harder than other environments, and it's. But we learned great things by doing so, and actually now we are exporting it since last year because we've actually learned how to do it really, really well for this market. And if you can do it here, you can definitely do it in other places.
Oh, I like that. If you can do it in the Philippines, you can reapply other places because of
Yeah,
the challenging regulatory environment, I guess. That we have.
absolutely.
Okay, so you found out that finally, okay, you found that that idea would work with doing sort of like outsourcing for financial work. Um, so people keep on saying, I have a great idea, but great ideas is just homework, right? It's just thesis.
Yeah.
It's really literally going and doing it live or getting it executed. How did you go about executing this, especially if you don't mind me saying, especially being a foreigner doing this in the Philippines and selling the business and
Yeah.
and marketing your business?
I mean, it started word of mouth, really. Just kind of like proving the concept. Can we do it? Does it work? What systems do we need? What process do we need to work on? Hiring a few people, and then expanded from there. So we just started traditional way. I'm a bit of traditional investor. I didn't have like the intention to raise tons of money, at least not at the beginning. And I just wanted to prove the concept, bootstrap, and snowball from there. And that's exactly what we did. Like we just hired a small team, and then the small team became 20 people, then 50 people, and 100 people, and that's how we went. Like we took the long route, which is not very trendy these days. It's more like, here's a deck, and I'm going to raise a few $1 million and try to go big or go home. And I took the more traditional way, which took a bit longer, but I think it's probably even more gratifying then.
Yeah, I can see. I can see you don't seem to have the stress of the other startups I've actually had here on the program, who seem to be very calm here, but are wading furiously underwater. But then, having said that, when you did start off, and for those who don't understand what bootstrapping means, it's really bootstrapping means that you are burning your own money. I mean, you're using your
That's
own
right.
money to run the business.
That's right.
It can be a bit, it can be a bit nerve wracking putting up the business and using your own money. I mean, the first couple of months were, I would think, were a bit stressful. Putting
Yeah.
it up because you weren't sure that it would be successful. Um, what did you have to keep in mind during the time? I hope in mind, because many people are also at that space. They're saying, okay, I got my own money. How do I know that it's good to proceed? Should I stop? I mean, because you're all systems go, but of course you're just relying basically on your gut that it's going to work.
Yeah, I think you gotta. I mean, for me, what kept me kind of focused, and like first, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you gotta be, when you start, you gotta be willing to think you're gonna fail, right? I mean, odds are not necessarily in your favor. They're not necessarily completely against you, but so I had like some money aside, and I said, okay, this is what I have, and this is what I have to burn, and I have to burn it some, like burn in not a bad way, but like the burn as expending cash to expand your business. Uh, and can I prove a fundamental business model with that? And yeah, we were able to. But I think to remove the stress, it's more like, okay, this is my runway, and this is what I have to. This is the coins I have to play with, and this is how I'm going to approach it. So you have to be a bit conservative, but you also have to take the risk you have to take. And then if you play your cards in the right way, then building a fundamental business model that is proven, you make money providing a good service, and then people refer you to other people, and then you build. Once you get to generate some cash flow, you build some new marketing channels, and then you grow from there. Now you do need a bit of money aside to make sure you have food on the table and you can pay the rent. And I just had a certain runway, and I had to make it work with that runway. That's how we approached it. But it is stressful, especially when you come from a pretty comfortable corporate world where where the next paycheck is there. So that's probably the stressful part. But my only advice for people who want to take the journey is like, enjoy the ride, and if anything, you're going to learn something really, really interesting, not just professionally but personally. And I think that's kind of like how I approached this, how I dealt with the stress, how I dealt with the you're not sure if it's going to work. Win or lose, I'm going to learn something, and that's how I approach this.
I like that. Win or lose, I'm still gaining something in the end.
Yeah.
I guess that's even the best perspective to take coming into the situation. Now, was there any point in when you were doing this one where you felt that I'm sure because I've gone through it. I don't know if you've gone through it as well, but you're thinking, oh my God, did I do the right thing? I mean, I might be. There's the low
Yeah.
point. People never talk about the low points. Like for me, I could have just kept my job. I could have just. What was that? What is that low point for you? If you don't mind sharing?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there are, 80% of good days and there are sometimes 20% of bad days. And I think for so long as that ratio stays like that, I think you're on the right track. Now, I don't think I ever asked myself I should have kept the corporate role because I think in my mindset, if I fail, I can always find a job. I mean, if you try hard enough and you're dedicated and I'll land on my feet, and that's kind of like how I felt about this. Um, but yeah, there are times where you're like, really, especially at the beginning, you're doing everything right. Especially when you're bootstrapping, you can't afford a HR manager, a finance manager, all the managers. So you're doing a bit of everything, and you prioritize spending the cash flow you generate from the business into different areas. And then as you grow, then you get more comfortable and you build a structure around you. But at the beginning, you're doing a bit of everything. But that's part of the learning, and that's what I was willing to almost pay to learn, because you're really kind of burning your own savings and you're learning things. And I school doesn't teach you that. Your masters won't teach you that. I mean, they'll give you tools. Corporate world will teach you some of it, but when you got to do everything from like printing the documents to signing it to getting on a call with a lead to bringing next client that's going to get you the next hire, you can't learn that. And that's, some people find this kind of like, why am I doing this? I just found it very, very, like, it's a great learning experience, humbling almost, because especially when you join the corporate world, you think at some point you think, oh, okay, I don't have to do this anymore. When you're an entrepreneur, you can't have that mindset, in my experience.
You do all the dirty work. I mean, that's
Yeah, you do what you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you do all the dirty work. Now, so there did come those points for you. And if you don't mind me asking, what is at one point when you were doing CloudCfo work where you realized, yes, it's going to work? That one moment where you said, okay, this is going to be a good business to do.
I think fairly quickly we realized our unit economics made sense. That
Okay.
we can provide a good service at a good price. There's definitely a market for a price range and for people that see the value in our mission and what we're trying to provide as a service. So I think that response was there fairly quickly. And then we realized, okay, now can we scale this? So, but kind of the make or break, because our business model is traditional, right? We make money as a service provider. Some businesses, especially more innovative businesses in tech or e-commerce, like their monetization strategy is not fully defined yet, and that's a bit more nerve-wracking. For us, the recipe is proven. I mean, accounting services exist
I see.
for as long as businesses exist, and that's our objective, was to bring it to a next level. And is there a business model for it? And I think we kind of, within the first year, we were able to kind of show that there is something there. How big could we bring it? That's the following years that prove that.
Fantastic. I want to talk about scaling the business right now for you
Yeah.
in just a bit. But right now, let's take now the view of the consumer side, or rather the client side
Yeah.
now for CloudCfo. Like me, I'm a small business. I run a relatively small business. I run a food market where we have a lot of tenants in the market.
Yeah.
And how do you know, what are the sort of services that I should approach for CloudCfo? What are the pain points that you're seeing for us that need to be solved by CloudCfo?
First thing is kind of making sure you have a clear view of what needs to be done from a regulatory perspective. Like, you understand your tax obligations, you understand when they're due, and you have a party or a provider that doesn't notify you the day before. And so that's what we're about. Our application or accountants will give you notices way ahead of time. So like the regulatory part, like the calendar, the obligations you have by running your business, we take care of that and give you full visibility. Then the next point is like, okay, can I give you a profit and loss and a balance sheet and give you some ratios that really help you make decisions about your business? If you have a market, for example, you may have inventory. And if you run a business cash-based, cash in and cash out, inventory will skew your numbers. If you buy a lot of inventory this month, well, you may spread that over 2 months. So this month looks bad. The next 2 months will look good from a cash flow perspective, but that doesn't reflect the financial performance of your business. And that's where we come in. Like, we help you set up the right processes, the right understanding of how the business works financially, so that every month we'll tell you, RJ, like, this month's look good from a cash perspective, but that's because you didn't buy any inventory. You burnt what you used what you bought the previous months. And that's just one simple example, but and that's what we're about, is really about adding value from day-to-day operations of your business.
Okay. Now that I better understand how it works, if you don't mind, I mean, this is great. Can you give me a nice case study where you've seen that, where you guys have actually come in as CloudCfo and you've
Oh,
seen
wow.
and the business has grown as a result of you? I mean, where it was at the start, just basic quote unquote accounting services, but when the value added came with the analytical perspective, because for small businesses, they are there to analyze. They're just there to survive day to day, and I know where they're coming from, right? So they can't see the forest for the trees, because they just focus on survival. But then when you came in, you were able to say, we can help you actually scale if you understand your numbers better. Please.
I mean, we have quite a few examples. I think, I can quote a few. And so with tech, for example, tech is a particular issue where, like, understanding your tax obligations can be very tricky. If you're on a marketplace where you connect sellers and buyers, and you collect a fee from the seller, just understanding how this works is tricky. So first is understanding that and how you make it scale. Because if you have 1,000 transactions on your platform and you need to multiply your number of accountants by 10 to get to 10,000 transactions on your platform, it's not scalable. I mean, it's just not how tech functions. And if you're not approaching it the right way, then that's what's could happen possibly for you. And so we've helped quite a few tech companies really understand how the business model can scale through the use of technology and processes and the expertise of our team. So tech is one field where, especially in the Philippines, regulatory environment was not really tech oriented a few years back, and it's really catching up now. But they're completely gray areas, and we had to help entrepreneurs navigate that gray area. Another example would be pandemic. I mean, pandemic potentially cash squeezed every business out there. And if you were running your business on cash in, cash out, and not understanding the concepts of working capital, inventory, turnaround times, and things like this. So if you were kind of not very sophisticated, or you didn't have anyone in your corner that could bring that kind of discussion and understanding, it was really hard to navigate the pandemic. So this is really where I hope our customers can attest to that. We helped quite a few understand, you have X amount of cash in bank. These are your liabilities foreseeable for the future, regardless of your close or you're open for the next 6 months. This is what you need to do to make it happen. And I think that's what really kept us motivating as well during the tough times. Is we're helping business survive or thrive in certain cases.
So I'm guessing that CloudCfo business actually grew during the pandemic. To my mind,
we did. We did. Yes and no. I mean, we did. So for example, we had a sector that we're traditionally really strong on is F&B, bars, restaurants, because they do run inventories, they have POSs, a lot of transactions, so they're quite receptive to the value proposition we have. Those guys did suffer quite a bit during the pandemic, and they had to reduce cost and shut down. So some size of our portfolio really downsized. But the tech and the service and the areas that kept flourishing during the pandemic and had to almost kind of get a crash course in digitalization of business processes. Yeah, we did quite well in those segments.
Wow, it's nice to see actually how CloudCfo is working. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to think like an entrepreneur again right now. So the biggest thing right now they're saying is that, okay, let's compare the costs now of actually working with CloudCfo, because for me, to my mind, let me keep my accountant and maybe some guy who does the finance for me, just my projections for me. How would that cost of that one of keeping that secretary be versus, say, going full to CloudCfo?
So our key kind of arbitrage there is you don't need. So we work as every client we work with, regardless of size, one man company to 1,000 employee firm. we always work with a team. So we have accountants, senior accountants, accounting managers. In some cases, I even come in and advise on certain things. So you as an SME, you don't need a full-time senior manager or a full-time CFO, or you probably need a full-time accountant or a bookkeeper.
Mhm.
And if you were to afford all these positions, they'll be quite expensive, but you don't need their expertise on a full-time basis. So when you work with people like us, once it's processized, we maybe spend an hour of senior time for that client, but that hour will make the difference because that's the key fundamental question that a junior accountant can't answer for you. So it's kind of bundling the right expertise, the right amount of time allocated to each different process and each report that we submit to you. So and that's how we make it worth it in terms of cost arbitrage against you hiring. Yes, for sure you can hire an accountant, but can you hire an accountant sometime of a supervisor and sometime of a manager and even a few hours of a CFO if you need it? No, you can't do that. You'll have to hire 4 different positions full time.
So you actually spend time with the. I mean, for me, that sounds like a godsend for me because you sometimes need an outside perspective that comes from somebody from outside the industry to tell you how you guys are doing, and I think that would be the biggest benefit for me to work with the CloudCfo, with the cloud as a CloudCfo client.
Yeah, I mean, our managers handle the relationships very well, and they understand everything we're talking about from like fundamentals that impact the business, KPIs. And the simple is just getting a P&L, a profit and loss, a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, doing the bank reconciliation. So like kind of the fundamental accounting work is the minimum that we need to have those conversations are meaningful. And then those conversations are usually led by our team leads or more senior accountants that we also train. But if there's a really complex issue, then I'll join in, like related to process or some stuff that we're not entirely sure about, then we'll join in until we have the right answer.
Great. So when they use the services of CloudCfo, what do they? Is it something that you talk to, or is there an app that they go to? How does it actually work?
There's an app.
Virtual meeting.
No, I mean we have a web application where all like document exchange are standardized. Like we give you an email address that client@app.cloudcfo.ph. Any documents you send there, our team gets, and they know they have to do the bookkeeping for it. So our application really is the 2.0 aspect of it because expertise is available for every firm. We bring in our applications, bringing a unique experience where we digitalize every process that you have, and then plug it into the expertise and the other systems that we use, like the accounting ERPs and things like this. So digitalization of documents, digitalization of processes, giving you reminders when your tax is due, making sure you approve certain things through our application. So we really create a unique experience through our app on how to engage with your kind of accountant 2.0.
Got that. Now, finally, let's talk now about your business. Going back to CloudCfo.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting right now is you're talking about scaling a business, and you were able to help other people scale, the tech companies scale, the F&B scale. How do you see scaling from a CloudCfo perspective for your business?
I mean, we've taken, as I mentioned earlier, the snowball approach, and we've grown. We've doubled the first year, and then 80% growth and 80% growth, a bit less during pandemic, and then 80% growth. So we're kind of going at it like almost organically by just the snowball is growing. We're a service-based company. If we do a good job, we keep clients, and then we add new ones because they hear about us. Our marketing channels are also kind of making us known to the world out there. So right now, that's how we're going about it. Last year, we expanded globally. So now we have customers pretty much from California to New Zealand on multiple countries because we've learned that actually what we do here is also not that easily available in more mature markets. And what we've learned how to do it, our app complements a team of accountant experts. We've realized there's a market for it abroad. And now we are expanding globally as well. So we keep growing in the Philippines. That's our first market, and that's kind of a market that's close to our heart. But now we're really also going abroad.
It's not the app is not idiosyncratic, or it's just for the Philippines. It's something that can actually be used.
No, we have a payroll app, for example, that's really tailored to the Philippines market. But the kind of the customer interface, the like enhancing the accounting experience is really customizable for every market.
And where do you see CloudCfo in the next 5 years?
Uh, uh, we'd love to keep reinforcing that integration between expertise, service, and tech. There is a lot of, I mean, over the past few years, everyone was tech, and I mean, tech is a strong enabler for us. I'm a very strong believer in what technology can do for businesses. But for me, I'm never kind of, we had the temptation to just become a tech company and just build an app that other accounting firms could use. But I would lose control over the overall experience. And I see technology as a very strong improver of the experience of talking to experts and not just kind of a separate tool. And that's how we would like this to evolve. I mean, all the talk now is about AI and how about shaking certain like white collar industries and things like this. So we don't hide and get scared about this. We actually like, yeah, okay, like this sounds very exciting. We don't have to focus on data entry anymore. We can really focus on adding value more. And that's, I think, where that's the way we want to ride over the next few years.
I understand now. Now I get a better appreciation, because when people say CloudCfo, you're thinking, oh, this is an aggressive startup that's going to be raising money, Series A, Series B. I mean,
Yeah.
initially that's how I thought coming into this conversation, but actually it's not. It's you're actually running it like a sort of like a traditional business, which really goes
Yeah.
by word of mouth. It's built on the strength of the number of clients that you bring in. I mean, it's. Did you actually even get outside investors to grow the business, or did you just use internal
Yeah,
funding?
we did once. We worked with a company called Safe Capital at the time, and they're not traditional VCs, or kind of they expect certain very high growth rates. And I think that's we did have the opportunity. We did have discussions, and I mean that's a fantastic model. If you can scale a tech company at 10x a year, by all means go ahead. But if you're a service provider, I don't think you can do that and maintain a service quality, because at the end of the day, it's people. We gotta hire, we gotta train, we got to mentor, we got to promote, and that takes time. So we can do it, and we can grow quite fast, but not at the rates that venture capitalists would usually look at a business model. And then realize like we're a cash generating business, so let's grow it at our own pace. So we hire new developers for the app when we have cash flow for it, and we invest in new marketing channels when we can. So it's the way I wanted to run a business. It gives me a certain level of independence, as you can expect, because I don't have that many investors to, or I'm not chasing the next funding round, right? Because when you go down that route, your decision making is how can I raise my next round in a year, and that's something as an entrepreneur, it can be super exciting, and I definitely talk to many friends who are in that type of business, and I admire what they do. It's super high paced, super exciting, and they achieve very, very interesting things. But that was not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to take the long route, build expertise, work with people that need the time to adjust to what we do. Every time we release a new feature, actually, the customer adoption is easy. You just tell them, hey, there's a new cool thing you can do. Training our team on how they can optimize the use of that new feature to make their workflow better takes probably longer than you're training the client on how to use it. That's just because that's we need to train and evolve.
Yeah, and I find this a very refreshing actually discussion on the podcast, that it's not just all about growth. Sometimes you take a look at what are the fundamentals that make the business work, and as a service provider, this is what you need. I mean, this is the ambition, but you don't always have to go for that.
Yeah, I mean, we grow quite well. I mean, we're probably not doubling the business every year, but close to. And so that's as a service company, that's already something that it's not easy to achieve. It's quite disruptive. But tech is like 10x or 100x sometimes, like some crazy growth rates because it's technology, you can scale just buy more bandwidth, more service space, and that can work. When you have people actually pushing the service, it's very hard to grow. Even growing at our rates is something we have to constantly focus on and adapt to.
Well, bravo to all the hard work that you've been putting into growing CloudCfo. Now, if you don't mind, I have a lot of entrepreneurs who actually listen to the show, and they're thinking, what are the business opportunities I can also learn that I can do? Because many people, when they're starting off, one of the biggest fears of entrepreneurs is they're saying the business is already packed. I mean, there's no chance to grow anymore. There's no other businesses available. But you have the unique perspective to see, Cloud CFO and say, um, I'm seeing opportunities there, but I don't have the time
Yeah.
to pursue it. Are you seeing opportunities emerging from your perspective, from the business that you're working with, or from trends that you're seeing, that there's still opportunities for entrepreneurs to enter into?
Absolutely. I think it's more the mindset. And I think we've kind of romantized a lot of the kind of, the books or the media, or they create a romantic view of the entrepreneur as he has to create the next Google or the next Facebook to be an entrepreneur. No, there are tons of business models that just can be improved and give you a good business to build and grow. Yeah, now you're not going to get from zero valuation to $1 billion valuation in 3 years by starting a business that's fundamentally sound that improves the customer experience, rely on technology or not. And I think for me, I almost want to kind of like, it can be it's very intimidating to think it's a make or break if you don't have the next unicorn.
Mhm.
That's probably my piece of advice. There are tons of business opportunities that are outside of that. Just provide a good service, trust your values, and build a good team, and you'll have a business for sure. For me, being an entrepreneur is part of the journey. It's not being a billion. I mean, obviously, everyone wants to be successful financially. That's also why we do this. But there's more to it. I think.
I like that. Thank you so much. I mean, this is also a very sobering perspective. There's no need to always be the next unicorn. There's so many opportunities out there. We don't always have to look at the flashy models
Yeah,
that are out there to become that entrepreneur. Yeah,
yeah.
but what are you seeing also as well? Are there specific industries that interest you right now, or specific outsourcing? I want to pick your brains a bit more
Yeah,
on.
for me, I think if you outsourcing still has huge opportunities for development. We only do accounting because we're so process oriented that it's very hard to kind of do this in marketing and understand, be experts at marketing processes, for example. So we're just one specific KPO, not really BPO, and we built technology to support that service. So there are infinite opportunities to keep working on that. I think automation is an area that is I mean, it's really hot at the moment, but I think this requires quite a bit of investment technology, and that there's so much to be done there. And I think in places like the Philippines, there's still so many opportunities in tech, and the ecosystem is growing. So yeah, I think there's tons of opportunities. You just can't chase them all because you only have 24 hours in the day, and you have to sleep for a few hours out of those 24.
Well, thanks so much, Michael. It's been
Yeah,
such a refreshing discussion to get with you. And as we start to wrap
thanks.
up the discussion, I want to ask also for those people listening. You've gone the career route, you've gone the entrepreneurial route, and by because you were able to, I guess, approach it with a very measured approach to growing the
Mhm.
business. It's become successful in its own right. What pieces of advice would you like to give the future entrepreneurs also putting up their businesses? Any management hacks or great pieces of advice that you have, maybe two to three, that they can hack their way towards success, I guess, or growing their businesses.
Um, I think so. I mean, this sounds a bit cliche, but it's a lot about the team. You can't do it all, and you have to find the right people around you. Like you can only be successful businesses if you've got a successful team around you. But that takes time and finding the right leaders. So I think my advice is almost go. I'm not saying follow my example at all. It's more like you can't achieve everything in 1 year, and you like it's not a sprint. It's a hell of a marathon, and you will face times where yeah you feel like your legs can't run anymore, and you don't know where the next bottle of water is gonna come, and it's a marathon. So take your time and make decisions that are beneficial to your business in the long run, and not tomorrow.
Well, Michael, thanks so much. Again, I want to talk about Cloud CFO. If you guys are interested to look at Cloud CFO, this is their website. Let's flash it again on screen, Julio. That's cloudcfo.ph and cloudcfo.ph. Again, Michael, thank you so much for this really interesting
Thanks.
discussion. I personally, I found it something that was enlightening for me. You're not always racing to be to be there top, or raising money at the same time. Sometimes it's a matter of you just say, okay, I know what that business is. I want to be in control. You'll get there. There's no, you're not measuring yourself against anybody, but I guess
Yeah.
against yourself. That's why I see it
Yeah.
coming from you.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, they're they're great opportunities by raising money and going fast and beating competitors to the market. Obviously, that model is proven and it works. And I'm not saying we're not going to probably follow it in the future, but at the moment, I think we're happy with our growth and with what we've achieved. And yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share our journey and what we do on your show. Very much appreciated.
Okay. Again, thanks so much, Mickael, our CEO of CloudCfo. So again, thanks guys for listening. We will see you again in the next episode of the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.
Mike Stera.